Hello chess friends and welcome to your out of chess channel and welcome back to the FIDE World Fischer Random Chess Championship in 2022. So we're now in the super final of this beautiful chess event and we're following now an epic game between top grandmasters Hikaru Nakamura and Jan Nepo. So yesterday Hikaru Nakamura won his semifinals against Nodirbek Abdusattorov, but also Jan outplayed Magnus Carlsen in a brilliant match. They're now in the third final and they played first 4 games in which Hikaru Nakamura won one game, but also Jan Nepomniachtchi won one game, and they have to play now the decisive Armageddon game. This Armageddon game ended a couple of minutes ago. It was really quite a spectacular game, and the rules of the Armageddon game were that actually Hikaru Nakamura had 15 minutes on the clock, and Jan Nepomniachtchi had only 30 minutes on the clock, but Hikaru Nakamura needs to win the game in order to win the super final. If the game ends in a draw, then Jan Nepomniachtchi is the winner of the super final, and it's of course the winner of the FIDE World Fischer Random Chess Championship in 2022. So let's see now what happened. We're now in the last game of this beautiful chess event, and here we have reached this position. So in the beginning here, Hikaru opened with the move b3. So he played sort of a fianchetto style. He's trying also here to play maybe g3. So he has now both of these bishops lined up, and this is quite a spectacular already position, I think, in Fischer Random chess. In my opinion, we're already a dynamic setup in the beginning. So we have now the same move order also here by Jan Nepomniachtchi. He plays now the move b6. Now we have e4 by Hikaru, e5, and after move g3 we have g6. Really sort of symmetrical variation that Jan Nepomniachtchi played here. So now f4. You see Hikaru uses now this moment immediately, plays this very dangerous pin against the bishop on h8. Now Nepo does the same, but now Hikaru undermines the pressure in the center. F takes e5, bishop to e5, and here after e takes f5, here Nepo took of course the bishop on h1, but now Hikaru can also take out the bishop on e5. Of course you don't want to take out here with the queens, because if the queens are off the board, I think then the game is simplified too much. So that's why a good choice by Hikaru. He takes out with the bishop, stays with the queens on the board, because then you have of course more winning chances when the queens are off the board. When the queens are off the board, then the position could be too drawish, and of course it favors black then, because black needs only a draw in the Armageddon in order to win the game. So we have now g takes f5. At least in this tactical sequence that Hikaru played here, he provoked this isolated pawn on f5. It's a structural weakness. It's, I think, a normal idea that Hikaru played here. He's of course creating this weakness, and now he's trying to attack the weakness. So here bishop to c3, we have bishop to c6, knight to e3, attacking now the f5 immediately, queen to h5 by Jan Nepomniachtchi. Very nice move. Not that he is only protecting the f5, he's also attacking the h2 pawn, so he counterattacks also here white in the position. Queen to f2, Hikaru continues the pressure, and now knight to h6, Nepo is protecting the f5 pawn, but also is threatening knight to g4. Knight to g4 would simplify the game again further, because after f takes g4, then you don't have any more the isolated pawn, and actually maybe even black could be slightly better here because of the potential h-file attack. So in the continuation we have now knight to e2 here by Hikaru Nakamura. Maybe a slightly better move would have been rook to f1. You're continuing with your plan, you're continuing with your f5 attack, but knight to e2 also pretty normal stuff, with ideas maybe to here cement the knight on a powerful square on the square f4. So we have here now knight to e6 by Jan Nepomniachtchi, rook to f1. Now comes this idea, and now king to b7 played by Nepo. He's getting the king on a better square, and he has now rook connection. He's trying now of course to play rook to f8 or similar stuff. And now comes the first critical moment of the game. Here Hikaru plays a risky move d4, because I think when we watch now this position, Nepo got away, I think, with this position with the black pieces, and it's quite hard, I think, to play Fischer Random chess with the black pieces. I think Nepo has a solid game, although we have to say still he has this f5 weakness, but also Hikaru has this h2 weakness. So if many pawns are traded off, if again the position gets more and more simplified, then it's again a drawish position. So I think Nepo has a good game, so that's why here Hikaru risked simply with the move d4. This is not a good move, we have to say it, but it's a risky move. We want to of course play here the move d5, but the downside is of course you're weakening a little bit your e4 square. Now knight to g5, knight to e4 could be an opportunity. So many opportunities are here. Again, knight to g4 here is an opportunity to simplify the game. So it was really risky what Hikaru Nakamura did here. In the continuation, we have this idea, knight to g4 immediately, queen to f5 by Hikaru Nakamura, and now Nepo simplifies the game. Queen to f5, knight to f5, and now, as we said, Hikaru had also his weakness on h2. A better maybe idea, instead of queen takes f5, would have been to go queen to h6. Look at this, how wild the game would have been if you take here, for instance, with the move queen to g4. Of course, the knight is hanging on e3, but that's not the point of the sequence. Okay, this move maybe Nepo missed. It's really hard to watch this kind of a tactic, but actually this would be quite spectacular, because look at this, we're including now the rook into the game, and the queen is a little bit out of game. You don't have good squares. Where are you going to go with your queen? You have to maybe cover yourself with the knight to f4 or something. Then of course we can take rook to g4 here. You can take maybe another piece. Okay, maybe this is playable, but I would not love to play, I think, this game from White's perspective. Maybe after move rook to g8 you can play queen to f5, getting out of the range of the rook. But now actually this other rook is coming into the game. You have only one square, and now look at this, the rook on f1 is hanging. Rook takes f1, you cannot take with the knight because of the pin by the queen against the knight. So this would be really spectacular. So queen to h6 actually was the way to go here for Nepo. Maybe this is not winning immediately, but I think White would not have fun in this particular position. So huge mistake, first of all, this move d4 that Hikaru Nakamura played. But let's see now, knight to g4, queen to f5, queen to f5, and Nepo, okay, he played this line, he wanted to simplify, he wanted to get a drawish position, but now Hikaru gets, I think, his pieces into the game. So rook to e1, rook to f8 here by Nepo, knight to e3, bishop to e4, and now you see Hikaru advanced simply the pawn, is creating now at least some spaces in the center of the board, but nothing special. I think we can agree. Okay, you have a tempo, again the queens are off the board, so if black plays, I think now a solid game, this should be a drawish position. So knight to g5, knight to f4, Hikaru uses this beautiful square here in the center of the board. Rook to e8, we have king to b2, bishop to f3, and now d6. This is at least some kind of a dynamic move. This is a good move, I think, by Hikaru, at least splitting the pawn chain. If you take, of course, then you have a structural weakness. d6 is weak, d7 is weak. If you pass through, then the d7 is weak. So really great move, but we have to understand here Hikaru's problems. He has to, of course, win the game. So after move d6, Nepo passes through here with the move c6, knight to c4, played by Hikaru. He's targeting here the weak e5 square, knight to e4, knight to e5, and now comes a bad move maybe here a little bit by Jan Nepomniachtchi. He took here the bishop on c3. There is one problem in White's position also, we have to say it. We have to understand that these are opposite colored bishops, and if you could just imagine maybe this position without this knight, without maybe this rooks, if maybe just the bishop stay on the board and also the pawns, then of course it's a drawish position. So here Nepo gets rid of the bishop, so he messed up his drawish chances, I think, by taking out the bishop. So now this is not an opposite colored bishop's endgame anymore. I think when we watch now this position, this knight on e5 and also the knight on f4 are now much more powerful than the bishop and the knight, and this becomes now a huge problem. So after move bishop to g4 was played by Nepo, hoping maybe that Hikaru trades off further, but Hikaru stays simply with his powerful knight in the center of the board. We have rook to e3. He's noticing that he could maybe get some kind of advantage here on the e file. Is trying up now to double up the rooks, and we have now h5 by Nepo, so he simply advances the pawn. So we have rook to e1. Maybe instead of this move h5 that Nepo played, bishop to f5 is the way to go, because you don't want to lose your bishop here maybe on g4, because if you lose the bishop, then of course also your d7 pawn is weak, so it becomes now also a huge problem. So as I said, here Nepo protected the bishop on g4, but now look at this, rook to e1 was played by Hikaru Nakamura, and Hikaru has now a dominant position. He has two powerful knights in the center, he has occupied the e file, he has a beautiful rook battery, and there's simply not a good move anymore here for black. This is now really bad position for Nepo. If you play something like bishop to f5, if you retreat again, then we'll simply pick up here the piece. So even if you play, let's see, h4, then we play simply knight to g4 again. Simply the e file is hanging, so it's not again a possible move here for black. So black doesn't have a good move. That's now, I think, now the downside. And here Nepo decided to go in this way. He tried to sacrifice the exchange after rook to e5, rook takes e5. He tried the fork on f3, but this is not a tactic that's working because Hikaru sensed that he's getting out of the range with the move rook to e8. We have rook to f6, so Nepo is trying to stay with the rook on the board, and he's trying, of course, now to pick up the pawn on d6. We have rook to h1 here. Okay, Nepo picked up the pawn here on d6, but now Hikaru Nakamura plays simply rook to g8. It's threatening, of course, knight to h5, rook to h5, and then we have the passer here, and this is a much better position suddenly now for Hikaru Nakamura. So after rook to g8 that Hikaru played here, Nepo tried to play rook to d2. At least he's battling sort of for the f2 square, but as we said, this is simply a weak pawn. Knight to h5, we have bishop to f5 now. Hikaru still can he can still protect the pawn on c2. We have rook to h2, nothing special. We have knight to g7 attacking the bishop on f5, bishop to e4, and now knight to e8 here by Hikaru. He's trying now to play knight to d6, the fork against the king and the bishop. So Nepo prevents that. We have rook to f8, trying still to overload a little bit the bishop here. The bishop is protecting the knight, but there's simply not a good way here to proceed for black. This is a completely lost game here. d5, here Nepo tried to keep everything glued together, keep everything compact. Rook to f6, trading off more pieces is of course a good idea here for white when you up the exchange. Rook to h3, knight to d6, now comes the fork, simplifying the game. Knight to e4, d takes e4, rook to g6, we have rook rook to h2, and now after rook to e6 again, Hikaru is attacking simply the pawn. We have a rook to e2, and now after rook to h1 here, a beautiful idea by Hikaru. He's including now this other rook into the game. He will eventually play maybe a battery on the 6th rank, on the 7th rank, but he's holding also here this pawn. He has still also his passer. If something gets wrong in the position here in the center of the board, still you can deflect many pieces just by pushing the g pawn. So we have b5, now a3, rook to e3, a check, king to b2, again attack against the rook. But now you see Hikaru gets with the rook very active into the game. He plays now a rook to e7. He's trying now to deliver even checkmate, playing something like g4 b4, pardon me, not allowing here to king to escape. We have king to c5, we have a rook to d7, knight to f3, and here after move b4, king to c4, and rook to h5. In this position, Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned because there is nothing that can be done. You can just maybe prolong the game by sacrificing more pieces, but there's no good defense against here the move rook to c5. That would be, of course, a beautiful checkmate. So congratulations to Hikaru Nakamura. He is the winner of the FIDE World Fischer Random Chess Championship in 2022. Congratulations, incredible performance by Hikaru. And when we watch now this tournament, I think it was deserved because he played really awesome chess against Magnus Carlsen in the group stage, but outplayed maybe even the best player till that moment in the tournament, Nodirbek Abdusatorov. And also in this super final, he played really great chess, especially I think also in this Armageddon game. He showed that he wanted to win, I think, with this risky move d4. Okay, he created an imbalanced position, but this is simply fast time format chess. Of course, you have to make mistakes, you have to make inaccuracies, blunders, but in these tactical battles, Hikaru is a great player. He loves to play this wild open game, so he found simply the best solutions. Is now the beautiful winner of the FIDE World Fischer Random Chess Championship in 2022. So congratulations again. I hope that you like this tournament. It was really interesting, I think, for us to watch this kind of an event. Beautiful event it was for sure. If you want to see maybe some other games that we have covered so far, please check out also some other games that we have seen before. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.